Hello and welcome back to TwoSun Tuesday. Today we are graced with the presence of this Giga Chad of a blade. This is known as the TS346. It's a NightMorning design, which, hey, it's at least not billboarded on the handles, except for it kind of is. But hey, it's on the backspacer, whatever. So, this thing is quite ridiculous. Not necessarily in length. It is fairly long at 3.91 inches. So, not a shy little wallflower at all. But what really makes this thing stand out is this thing is thick with several C's. We're talking a 5.1 millimeter blade stock thickness on this guy. Super, super thick. However, it actually is ground down to really, really thin behind the edge. So it works out quite well for a lot of that stuff. It is D2, as I had mentioned earlier, so that helps a little bit with dealing with having a super, super thin edge. I wouldn't, bash or try to hack at something that, I don't know, maybe has some metal pieces in it. Like if you're trying to, I don't know, hack through a piece of wood that may have some staples or a nail or something like that in there. Might not go all that well, but regardless, this thing is really, really built like a Medford. It's quite ridiculous, but in a great way. It really makes me smile. Um, yeah, let's see. We got frame lock here, of course. We have some milled sort of spaces here for the lock bar relief. Which, hey, at least they did that rather than just having the standard thing there. Otherwise, I would have preferred it on the inside. But this does kind of add to that kind of vibe that the knife has going on there. Really large pivot here, and this is one of the few knives that TwoSun has made that does not run on bearings. This runs on phosphor bronze washers. As you can see, there's not much gap there because they're much thinner than the bearings usually are. Because of that, it's not necessarily the most drop shitty sort of thing out there, but it's okay. It's not really exactly what it's going for. There we go. Let's see. I probably, sure, I'll use this little tiny flashlight here. We can see on the inside, it's got a little bit of milling on both sides. They kind of got creative with it, but this is not a lightweight knife. And we can see we have a channel running down here in the middle for the blade. I will say that it might not come out on camera, and or I might have just tried to fix it a little bit. But yeah, right around here, it does hit just a little tiny bit on the inside there. I want a more bright flashlight than that little thing. You could probably see, maybe. Well, it's much more obvious to me that probably about like a half an inch down, kind of like right here. The blade does come in contact with that thing just a little bit, so it will kind of dull that thing out. That is something that will basically fix itself after a sharpening or so. Yeah, it's not something where it's going to flex and continually hit that like we've seen on, unfortunately, one in the past there. But it is something that I should probably point out. And depending on how yours might be ground and stuff like that, it could be different for yours. I don't know. But yeah, it is there. It's a little subtle, but that does kind of happen there. Just basically right around here, that little tiny portion of the blade. So it's got their coating on there. They don't really release a whole lot of information on it. So with that being said, my best guess for them pretty much are all titanium coating of some sort, titanium nitride, or, well, titanium nitride is usually, no, titanium nitride, that's what I'm thinking of. Titanium dioxide is all white, whatever, that's food additive and something they put in toothpaste and shit like that. Oh well. Anyway, this thing is pretty ridiculous. The pocket clip on it's not super terrible, but it is on this lock bar relief here, so it might not be the absolute smoothest thing in and out of a pocket. It might eat up some thinner fabrics and stuff like that, but I really can't imagine someone wanting to try to carry this every day in a pair of slacks. So I don't know necessarily if it's that big a deal, but hey, there you go. We can see we have a lot of attachment points here. We got 5 of them. And this one up top here with the screw is also the stop pin. It's not located internal to the blade. But yeah, in this particular case, it's screwed in on both sides rather than just being a little thing. And it's thicker than most of the rest of them end up being. Since the back spacer goes all the way, there's absolutely no way for you to get to the blade at all. And the tip is nice and secured in there, so it doesn't have that tip exposure that the TS313 button lock thing did. So great for that. If you are curious about what this little hole is here, maybe you've seen it in pictures or something like that, that is basically where this comes in. This is a pin that kind of comes in the box there. You can see it's smaller on that side because it's threaded. So you can stuff that guy in there and really twist it down to act basically as a secondary lock. At this point, yeah, that thing's not going anywhere, so you already have a differing pin as well as the frame lock there. Hey, it's a secondary lock. It's not the first thing that's done that. I think like an Artisan Cutlery Archeo and stuff like that kind of had that. But this one doesn't come pre-attached to the lanyard point here, which is fairly generous in case you really need to have that there or lash it on, whatever the hell else you might be carrying it on. But yeah, you might want to be careful not to end up losing this guy. It is steel, so it's not going to be a titanium pin, but hey, that makes me happy anyway. Hardened steel is, much cheaper to manufacture and probably better for this particular instance. The shear strength of titanium is not quite as good as some hardened steel is. So there you go with that. Yeah, this thing is just a ridiculous monster. Really makes me smile. The geometry on it, like I said earlier, is really fantastic. It is kind of a really, really high saber grind there. So it's not quite a full flat grind. I've only really had this thing kind of bind up when I was cutting through some really, really thick material or something like that. It was quite tall. Otherwise, this thing actually does a really, really good job at doing a lot of EDC tasks. It's definitely comfortable and a full 4-finger grip from the back with the jimping right where I would want it. It's not super aggressive. You can see it's kind of rounded off a little bit on those jumps, but really adds a whole lot of friction there, so that's great. And you can very, very comfortably choke up there. This finger choil is even big enough for, those of us with larger hand profiles, so that's fantastic as well. Really like that. And yeah, the pivots here, the outer one is most likely titanium like they do on the rest of them. I could probably actually check that with my magnet here when we do the teardown in just a little bit. But yeah, let me go ahead and go over a little bit more information on here. Let's see. I think I did cover, we got a 3.91 inch blade. That's 99.3, just under 100 millimeters or 10 centimeters, whatever. But as far as the thickness goes on it, it's 0.51 of an inch or 13.1 millimeters. So just a little bit thicker overall than the Spyderco Paramilitary 2. That's at 0.504 or somewhere around there. So it is fairly slim in the pocket. It's going to be big in the pocket, don't get me wrong. This thing is quite large. but it's not going to be super crazy wide like some of the other knives out there. Yeah, I was really surprised at how much I actually liked this thing when I got it. I wasn't quite sure what to expect. I wasn't quite sure what that was necessarily for there. Just seeing that hole or whatever. But yeah, you can see it does basically go through the blade there. So it's really nice and secure. Let's see. How about if I try to do some size comparisons here? First one that I think makes the most sense is probably the Spyderco Manix 2 XL. So there's that right there. And then, yeah, we got the paramilitary 2 right there. A little bit smaller. That's all right. It's all on how you use it, right? And here's another large one. There's the Endura 4, which it is definitely longer, especially on the handle from. Let's see, and I suppose that would make a lot of sense to look at the Ontario Rat number 1. And yeah, this thing is bigger in both handle and blade length. So, very much not a small knife. I don't really have an enormous Benchmade these days, but there we go with the 940 and the Bug Out 535. I could probably liken this more to the size of the full-size Crooked River that's right around a 4-inch blade, but I don't have one of those, and they're really expensive, so I think it'll probably stay that way. Lock bar relief, you don't really have much going on there, but you do have, the finger grooves on both sides there, and it's scalloped out on the inside. So I don't really have any troubles dealing with getting this guy unlocked. You have, especially because of the 5.1 millimeter blade stock on that, you have plenty of room to be able to get your thumb meat all up in there for closing it. So, yeah, this thing is fantastic. I would really love to see if maybe they would do a different steel on this in the future, but I guess it really depends on if people really want one of those ridiculous overbuilt kind of knives. It really hasn't been TwoSun's forte thus far, I suppose, but it's definitely a fantastic outing. I'm really enjoying it. This little fuller here, obviously, you can slow roll that with the thumb and, reverse flick that. It's a little bit more difficult under the camera, but super easy to make that happen. Yeah, I can't really complain at all, except for, just that little blade wrap that we got on that little area there, which, like I said, it will clear up after a sharpening or two, and it might or might not necessarily apply to yours, just depending on who actually did the final finishing grinding on the blade itself. But yeah, there you go. As this is kind of the conclusion of the standard review for it. If that's all you were stopping by for, I appreciate you for your time. And if this interests you, go ahead and take a look for it. I've seen them on both White Mountain Knives and Amazon if you are looking to pick one up. So there you go. There's also the Lightning Strike Anno finished one that doesn't have the black coating on the handles. The blade's still black coated and stonewashed, but yeah, so if you want one super nice and shiny, I suppose you could do that. For this one in particular, I didn't really think it made a whole lot of sense because doing the Lightning Strike Anno, they do a really, really high polish finish on the titanium, and that kind of makes them a little slick. So when you have something like this, it's really large, made for doing some heavy-duty use and stuff like that, this variant certainly made a lot more sense to me. But, yeah, you do you. If you like that rainbow anodization, then there you go. But, all right, for the rest of us, I will be doing a disassembly here, but I am going to actually cut because I have a company meeting I have to attend to for documentation and some such. So that's going to go ahead and proceed a little bit more than 5 minutes from now. So I will go ahead and finish up this video real quick, and the disassembly will be on the tail end of the video. So catch you then. All right, I am back from my wonderful meetings, so I can go ahead and take this one apart. As you can see, there's a little bit more screws on this than a standard TwoSun would have, but still T8 hardware. Here's 4. And 5 here for the pin, and then of course the pivot screw. Alright, and then yeah, this guy comes right off here. You can see we got the pocket clip mounted internally there. Little icing on the cake, I suppose. They probably could have just moved it up just a little tiny bit there and had it be part of the back. I don't know. That was just kind of whatever his design wanted to be. And here we have the those washers. Well, that I look at it, these kind of look like copper. Maybe, I don't know exactly. Either way, what I had noticed when I first pulled that out, a lot of times with washers, or at least the metal variety, is I will take them and rub them across something like a mouse pad. Basically, this is a gigantic mouse pad. I got a black one underneath that, so I have lots of cushion and stuff like that. But rubbing that on both sides, usually I can feel a burr because of the way that they end up cutting the washers off of, whatever that is there. But these were super nice and polished already. I didn't really have to do anything. If I do, more often than not, because this isn't really hardened steel or anything like that, I end up using a strop. Usually just the standard grain stropping compound on there, and just rub it over with your finger or whatever. Probably wash your hands afterwards. This is mostly just jeweler's rouge, but probably don't want to eat any more of it than you might already have to. But yeah, you can see just how beefy this pivot is on here. Like, this knife ain't playing around like at all here. A little bit of dark color on here was basically just from some of the coating there. It'll probably wear off a little bit over time. I already have KPL normal on here, so I don't really feel the need to put any more of that on there. But something that they have recently been doing is with their D-shaped pivots, having them keyed to the show side rather than the lock side here. And that actually makes it much easier to put back together, because once the pivot's in there and it only goes that way, you don't have to worry about the orientation on the lock bar side. So yeah, super nice and easy to get done. And yeah, we have a little bit of milling on the inside here for weight relieving. Yeah, a little tiny one there. Sure, why not? Just because they were already, of course, doing some milling on this side. And apparently that made a difference, or at least NightMorning thought that it would have. Yeah. And yes, these large pivot collars, I guess you would call it, are indeed titanium. So you can anodize these a different color if you would want. Black's probably not going to be in a possible thing for that, because, well, you can't anodize titanium black. You can coat it like they've done here with most likely the titanium nitride kind of coatings and stuff like that. But that's okay. You could have a decent little accent. You can put some gold on there. That would probably look quite nice. but you know, any of the other colors that you want. Purple, blue, green if you're up to it. Generally, that's a really high voltage color, so they are a little bit more difficult to do with electrical anodization there. So you know, your mileage may vary on how well that actually goes for you. It would probably help to prepare those metals in a particular way. You know, possibly polish it up and then dunk it in some well, wink if you're kind of on the lower end like I am, but there's also some specific stuff out there that you can dunk in that's a little less harsh to metals, but it also is a heated solution. But yeah, pretty nice and easy to take apart, put back together. Just a few more screws than we'd have on most of the other ones, and a screw going through the actual stop pin there. That is a little different. Shoot, I don't actually have it. I was going to point out that that's basically how it goes for for the Manix 2. There will be a front screw up here. The Manix 2 XL actually did away with it, but the original normal size version will have another one there. So yeah, I guess that was a waste of everyone's time, but all right. So there we go. There's the TS346. I've been taken with calling it the Giga Chad just because it is absolutely ridiculous in most dimensions. As far as the actual length, it's a big knife, 3.91 inches, but you know, it's not going to be anything ridiculous like any of the cold steels out there, like the Frenzy or the Raja or the what is that? The Espada XL. This is like ridiculous. It's basically a pocket sword, but yeah, still a very, very useful, strong use knife. You just probably don't want to end up losing the little pin there if you do intend to use that feature. Alrighty, so that's everything I got to cover here. So I'll go ahead and call it. As always, I appreciate y'all for watching, and have yourself a wonderful rest of your day, yo. And subscribe.